How you doing? I'm David Sancheesi, and I'm here to talk about the news of the day. All right. Usually when I do these videos, it's because I want to be right and I want to pass along information I think is important, and I do it based on the fact that I want to be correct when I do pass this information along. Well, this video today is completely the opposite. I'm hoping everything I say is wrong, but it's what I believe and why I think little to nothing will be done in the Hillary Clinton spying operation. Oh, I do think there will be arrests because they really don't have any choice with all the evidence that's going to come out. But I do think the arrest will be limited, and I'm going to get into why I believe that. And if you've been following this case, you'll understand what I'm talking about and why you'll probably agree with me. One thing about government institutions, and I know because I worked for one, is the most important thing and what is imperative to them is that the organization that they're talking about, that there's as little bad information, or I guess the way I should put it is that if there is a scandal, they want to kind of minimize it as much as they can because looks is everything to the government. How things play out and how things look is very important to the government. As many of you know, I used to be NYPD, and NYPD was a very corrupt organization. And what would happen was people would do corrupt things and they would only minimize it and not get everything in an entirety, and the corruption always festered until they decided to say no more corruption within the NYPD. They didn't care how it embarrassed the organization, but they were going to root it out. And in my opinion, they did. Now, are there corrupt individuals sometimes? Yes, people are going to do stuff, but there's no organized corruption within the NYPD. That I know. Anymore to this day, there is zero organized corruption in the NYPD because they attack it at any point, so it's not allowed to fester. Now, the government is a whole different thing. The federal government, it's so corrupt. I don't even know if they could fix it. I mean, they could if they really do, but you have to have probably half the government that would take down the other half, and that's the problem that I see. Now, first things first. If you've been following this Hillary spying situation or the whole corrupt thing that's happened there, the whole scandal, it involves very big, very powerful people within our government. Firstly, let's attack this situation. If they were to arrest everybody involved, right? One of the biggest things would be they'd have to arrest a former president, someone they call a president that's in the White House now, someone who ran for president, which is Hillary Clinton herself, and I'm pretty sure her husband, who is also a former president, knew what happened. So he may be implicated in this as well. So right there, think about it. How many presidents have we had? 46 in total. 3 and one that ran for president are implicated in this thing and will go down. That would be tragic to probably the looks and the history of the United States of America. And they look at that and they know. So now you get those presidents and everyone who worked for those presidents that knew what they were doing or was involved in that. Who knows how many people that is, right? Now we're going to go to all the different institutions. The Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, is implicated. Justice Roberts signed off on 11 illegal FISA warrants that are involved in this thing. Supreme Court is in jeopardy. You bring down Justice Roberts, who's going to replace him? Now you have a president or a resident who's involved now, that if he was to go down, how does he pick another justice if he's involved in this scandal? You see what I'm saying? You see how complicated this is? So they know all this stuff. Now I'm going to go on. A former FBI head is involved in this scandal, James Comey. How many people that were involved with him that would be involved in this scandal? Then you have the present FBI in charge. You have the current FBI director, Christopher Wray, who was involved in this scandal as well. He also helped hide all the stuff with the Hunter Biden information. He may have been there when they planned the whole thing. I believe this whole operation even extends into the 2020 election. How many people are involved with that? Then you have the head of CIA at the time. You have John Brennan, who's involved. You have Gina Haspel, who's involved. And if you've been following this case, the way that Gina Haspel is involved, she got another government involved. She was involved with the government of England. So now you're going to have to extend this thing into England. Do you really think our government wants to drag a whole nother government involved? And there are also other governments involved in this scandal. Again, then that all extends to the people who were in that government or the people in the CIA who were involved. We're talking possibly hundreds of people. Then you have James Clapper, who was involved, the head of the DIA at the time. Supposedly there's people in the Pentagon who are involved. Now we're not even talking about the people in the news media who are involved. Those of you who are hip to what's going on understand how the news media was involved in this. There's emails going back and forth between news organizations. So now you're going to be taking down news organizations. Do you understand the depth and depravity of this whole situation? And that's why I say I do think there will be a couple arrests, but I do think there will be deals made behind closed doors. And I think John Durham would like to do it as best as he can. But remember, he can't even make an arrest without the approval of the current AG. Do you think the current AG is going to approve all these mass arrests? Because that's what we're talking about. We're talking mass arrests, possibly hundreds of people from the United States and other countries. So that's why when I look at this as a whole, I do not have faith that our system will pursue this to the fullest extent of the law. So what I believe is backdoor deals will be made. I believe they will arrest a few people. Maybe Hillary will. I don't know. I don't have any idea what's really going on, but I do think there will be some small fries because that's what they always do. They'll sweep the rest under the rug, and maybe there'll be some resignations. Maybe some people will be forced to leave. And that's unfortunately where I believe it will go. I don't think there will be mass arrests. I think a few people will be indicted. A few people will plead guilty. I don't think we'll ever see even one trial because there's too many people implicated again. And if you bring people to trial, people will start spilling the beans. And you see how government works with that. Look what happened at the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. We still don't know who's implicated from the government or any other wealthy billionaires, millionaires that are involved in this. It's basically been swept under the rug. And I believe that's kind of what will happen here. And lastly, what I believe is why the government wouldn't do this. Because of how it looks, as I said. And it's not because they care about how it looks to people like us. Most of you watching this video probably understand the depth of what has happened. But it's the normies. The normies are the people that don't really have an idea what's going on. And if they knew, they would become like us. So they don't want them understanding the depth and depravity of the corruption that's going on in this country. So I believe they will hit a few people. Some people will get arrested. There'll be some plea bargains, and that'll possibly be all. I know it's not what most of you want to hear. I know most of you want mass arrest. You don't care. I don't either. I would prefer that. I prefer we clean up everything and we go from here and restructure our government and actually have people held accountable. We have to have government oversight. There is no government oversight. What they call government oversight is the Congress and the Senate. Hell, some of them are probably involved in this. If you see what a guy like Adam Schiff did, you don't think he knew all the stuff that was going on. Nancy Pelosi is probably the ringmaster behind just about everything bad that happens in this country. So I really haven't linked her to this. If you know, I'm not saying she was linked to this, but everything would start to fester out. You start locking these people up and you give them the time they deserve. Trust me, everybody will spill the beans on everybody and our government will collapse. And that's why I don't believe what needs to be done will be done. And this is where I say where you all become involved, and the true and only way we can fix this is from the grassroots up, which means, just like I always said, you have to get involved. You have to get involved in the next election. And I don't mean just going out and vote. Of course, that's important, but you have to somehow get involved by becoming maybe an electioneer, getting involved by going into the next election and watching votes as they come in. If you have experience computer stuff, maybe you could go in and watch Wi-Fi, get involved in the election process as best you can. If we want to save our country, we can no longer sit back and expect other people to do it. We can't sit back and expect truckers to save the world. The trucker situation is only a small part of what has to happen. So I've gotten involved in a lot of stuff where I live, but unfortunately I live in New York and there's only so much you can do. It's a big corrupt Democrat state, and there's only limited stuff what I can do. But if you're in places where elections can go either way, then you're the person. You're the person the rest of the country has to rely on. The people that we need. So I just wanted to let that out there. If you disagree with me in the comments, let me know. But I just don't want too many people having their hopes up, think there's going to be mass arrests. I just don't see it. I don't see it because of the reasons that I explained, and I just believe that it will collapse our government. So I think they all know that, and that's why I believe they're going to slap a few hands, a couple people going to pay, and that's it. So don't get your hopes up. Get your hopes up for the 2022 election. You got to get involved. You have to do your best to make sure this is a clean election. You have to put pressure on the people that are serving you right now and tell them we won't stand for a dirty election. We have to call the congressmen, call the senators who we believe are not corrupt, and put the pressure on them and say, we want a clean election in 2022. And from that election, we can rebuild our country, and we can get rid of all these corruptocrats, get rid of all the rhinos. It has to be rhino hunting season for us. We have to get rid of all the people who always go against us. The people like Mitt Romney, the Mitch McConnells, the Adam Kinzingers, those people, the Liz Cheneys, they got to go. I know Kinzinger is leaving anyway, but anyone like that has turned their backs on us over the last few years, and people who are exposed, the anti-Trumpers, the people who hate us, we the people who vote against us and what we want, we have to get them out, because that's the only way we can fix this country is to rely on ourselves. The government isn't going to do it because they're the problem. With all that being said, once again, I will say, I hope I'm wrong. This is the one video where I hope everything I said is just totally off the mark. I hope I could come back here and say I was 100% wrong and mass arrests are made. Everybody's held liable, because what I believe, before I go, what I believe is this whole Hillary scandal are the same players that did what happened in 2020. And I believe it's all interconnected. And then that adds more people to this list of people who have committed heinous crimes against our country. So that's where I'm at. Please don't get your hopes up too high. Be hopeful, but don't be too disappointed when we don't get what we want. But the main thing is, we know that this happened. They knew that we know it happened, and they lied to us. And we can never, never let them forget. And one more thing. If you like my shirt, Justin Trudeau is a dictator, go down in the comments, help my channel out, and I'll see you later. Thanks for watching.